So what exactly is Fender's Masterplan? Today we're going to talk about it. Howdy everybody, welcome back to Sunday Coffee, Guitars and Tones. I hope you've all had a really amazing week. This week's been absolutely fantastic. Last week was as well. It's been so productive. I have been knocking out videos. I've recorded so many tracks, which has been just awesome. And I've got like about 4 videos done. Yeah, main videos. Not even the tutorial stuff. Yeah, it's just crazy. Everything is just firing on all cylinders, which is just awesome. And I wanted to say thank you so much to all of you who have tuned into the videos, who've commented, liked, shared the videos, etc. I so appreciate it. And, you know, it's been so much fun to do this year. I've upped my output, which I've wanted to do for a long time. And you guys have just confirmed it, that I've made the right move, you know, to do more, because more is more. Talking about more is more. He does like his Fender guitars, doesn't he? Yeah. Our buddy Ingve J, hey? He has a few Strats, doesn't he? I think he does anyways. So, we're here to talk about Fender today. And if you didn't see my show last week, then I highly encourage you guys to go and watch my Sunday show last week, because I was talking about the whole case that Fender had brought against a Chinese company in Germany for applied copyright works. And there have been developments. Yes. So I wanted to do a follow-up because, you know, it didn't really sit very well with me that they took this Chinese company to court. And I think they have a master plan. Stick around for that, because you're going to want to hear this. So a little bit of background about myself, if you guys don't already know. So I am obviously a guitar player. I'm a professional guitar player, have been for the last 20 years. Yay. But before those 20 years, I was actually a professional lawyer. Yay! Yep, that's right, folks. I used to be an attorney, and for a long time, I was actually a copyright attorney as well. So I studied copyright law, and I did actually go on to work for a very big entertainment company for 5 years as their in-house lawyer. So the whole thing about this massive American company taking a Chinese company to court in Germany didn't quite sit right with me. Let me explain, but let me have a sip of coffee first. Cheers, guys. I'm going to put this down. Before I say anything, look, these are just my opinions and they're unconfirmed. They're just my thoughts. Okay, so don't take it as gospel. Do your own research, do your own thinking, and look into yourselves. You know, this is just what my mind is telling me. But like I said, it's purely speculation on my part. I'm not asserting that Fender are actually going to do any of what I'm thinking. But, you know, I'm looking at this from the point of view of an ex-lawyer. Yeah, somebody who used to actually think about legal strategy. So this is really important. So Fender in the US took a company in China to court in Germany. And they sued them because they were saying they were breaching copyright. And they actually got the win because the Chinese company didn't turn up at court. They got what's called a default judgment. That happens when, you know, the other party hasn't turned up and the judge doesn't want to basically give a continuance and pause the case because that slows things down, and says, okay, go ahead, present what you have, and on that basis decides, I'm going to give you judgment. The important thing about that is that it was not contested. The outcome may well have been different if this was contested, if the other party had brought up things like, hey, look, this has been in the collective consciousness for so long, 70 years. And also Fender have tried this in America with the trademark stuff in 2009, and it didn't work. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. Because that's important, right? But anyways, they have secured this win in China in China. They've secured this win in Germany against a Chinese company. This is getting confusing, man. What can I do? It's no longer a legal brain. It hasn't worked since like 2006. That's when I quit and became a professional musician. Yeah, so the cogs are a bit rusty because I haven't been oiling them. Anyways, so this whole scenario was like, I was thinking, well, why did they take a Chinese company who does Strat copies and sells them on basically like AliExpress for like $60, and you can find them on eBay for like $150 or something. I don't know if they actually put the Fender logo on there. Maybe somebody can confirm if they did or not. I don't actually know, but on their website, they had basically a Strat copy and they had a different name on the headstock. Looked like a Strat-style guitar like you've seen by many other companies. So then I was thinking, well, doesn't make sense. Then the legal mind, the ex-legal mind, yes, the ex-legal mind, because I'm no longer that person. Like to make that clear. Anyways, the ex-legal mind kicked in and it said, wait up a second. This makes perfect sense. So then I got thinking, maybe they took the Chinese company to court in Germany in order to secure a relatively easy win. But why would they do that? Well, you see, I'm going to tell you a little story about myself. I used to be a litigation lawyer for many years. And there is a thing which is called legal strategy. Now, sometimes, companies will take the little guy to court in order to get either an easy win or a settlement. And it's a strategic move in order to be able to say to other people, look, we've got this win against such and such. Now, you can't do such and such because we have this win. Now, I'm not saying Fender did that. It's just my speculation and just my thoughts. But hypothetically, let's say a company did do that. Well, now they actually have a piece of paper, a judgment, which they can go to other people with and say, hey, you got to stop what you're doing because we have this judgment. And with a company like Fender, it would mean that they would go to other guitar manufacturers and say, hey, you cannot make copies of Strats because we have a judgment saying that we have copyright over this design. And this is something that they have started to exercise. There are 2 companies so far which have confirmed that they have received cease and desist letters. First is LSL, which is a boutique manufacturer in Los Angeles, based in Santa Clarita, I believe. They do really beautiful handmade Strat-style guitars and Tele-style guitars. They're really stunning guitars, by the way. So they've confirmed it, and that was reported in Guitar World. And then literally on Thursday, which was 28th of May, PRS had also received a cease and desist letter for the Silver Sky. Yeah, the John Mayer signature model. And there is a lot of speculation that other companies have been served with a cease and desist letter. Now, is it in Fender's interest to actually stop all of these companies from manufacturing Strats or Strat-style guitars? Or even Strat derivatives? Because there is a law which basically says that if something is a derived work from a copyright work, so if you can trace the roots back to the original work, like let's say there's a Strat-style body, maybe with pointier horns. Yeah, just saying. Because if it's derived from that original, then there's potentially a claim against it as well. So this widens the net. If you think about like other companies like Ibanez, they have pointy horns on them. Yeah. Sir guitars, let's say, they have a slightly different shape, which is slightly skewed, etc., etc. So, there is that thing to consider, that maybe they are thinking about derived works as well, which is why they're going after various other companies as well. Unconfirmed yet, but if they have sent out letters to all of these other companies, then Possibly it's because they're thinking ahead, they're thinking legal strategy. But I don't think this is the end goal. I don't think they want to stop anybody from building guitars. Because you know what? They can't actually monetize it. And that's a big part of this. Yeah. If they stop every guitar company from making Strat-style guitars, it doesn't automatically mean that everybody will start buying Fender guitars. They just will not. Because guitar players have brand loyalty. I have brands that I like, which I would buy, invest in, you know, like that. Fender, it would be a kind of head scratcher because, you know, 9.5 inch, you know, fretboard radius doesn't work for my hands. I want a flatter radius. I want 12 to 16. So I'm thinking about Charvel and Jacksons and things like that, right? Which obviously Fender manufactured those as well. So, but you get my meaning, right? People who have a brand loyalty are not automatically going to switch over to Fender. If you're a big fan of PRS like I am, what are you just going to start buying Fender guitars now? Because PRS can't sell you a guitar? No, that's not going to happen. But then what is the end goal? So if I'm going back to my legal strategy and my legal mind, which is going, hey, I know what to do with this. I'm thinking, go to all of these people, show them the judgment and say, hey, we have copyright work in this. You can't build those guitars anymore. But you can if you pay us a license fee. Just like they did with the headstock. Obviously just speculation on my part, but what if that is the master plan? Think about it. Fender being able to go to every single guitar manufacturer which has a body shape which is like this or derived from this, and saying every guitar that you build with a body shape like this, you have to pay us a license fee. That's a lot of dough, man. Potentially. Now, hundreds of thousands of Strat-style guitars are built each year. Let's just estimate that 500,000 are made every single year. And that's a conservative guess, right? Let's say Fender wants $10 per body shape. That's $5 million right there. Just for licensing fees. Yeah. And it won't be $10. Guaranteed. Because you know what? When you go and buy an all parts neck, they're quite expensive. They're a few $100. And they're the licensed necks. So it could be that they want $100 per guitar. Can you imagine that amount of money? It'd be enormous for them doing nothing. Apart from Leo Fender originally designing the body shape. It's 70 years ago. Yeah. And then 70 years later, this happens. Man, that is basically just money coming in every single year for other people doing the work. Now, from a business perspective, that makes so much more sense. From a legal perspective, as in a lawyer's thought process, man, that's the ideal scenario. License it. You can do it if you want, but you got to pay us. Every time you do it, every single unit. And it just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling. As long as guitar exists, somebody will be paying Fender for the right to use this style of body shape. That's a potential. That's what's going around in my mind. Of course, I am just guessing here. I'm just speculating, and it's just a thought process. And like I said, it's because of my previous experience being a lawyer. Who knows what will happen? We'll just have to wait and see. So obviously some other people have received the cease and desist. We'll have to wait and see who else has been served and what they're going to do about it. Are the guitar companies basically going to say, oh, we're so sorry, we're just going to shut door and, you know, we're never going to sell guitars again? No, these are big companies, man. Somebody's going to say, all right, bring it on. I think a lot of people, I think a lot of these companies are basically going to say, all right, if you want to try it, go ahead. This is where it gets interesting as well, because you see the judgment, the precedent, as it's referred to in law, was given in Germany. That doesn't automatically apply to the world. The world is a big place, especially America, where there are a lot of manufacturers like PRS and LSL. So although they have this judgment, they can say to the companies, hey, we've got a judgment already, which says we have copyright in this body design. You've got to stop making those types of guitars. But those companies can potentially turn around and say, but that's in Europe. That doesn't automatically apply in the USA. And it's the same with other countries as well. Now, with a company like PRS, this will be really interesting, because if they were to actually start an action against PRS, PRS could very well turn around and say, yeah, you might have that piece of paper, but in 2009, you brought a case to trademark the Strat body and also the Telecaster body, and you actually lost that case. And that's actually a really, really strong precedent in the USA, because that ruling was made in the USA. So which will actually win? The one in Europe or the one in the USA? That's an interesting prospect, isn't it? And it's only if it's going to come to that, if it's going to go to court. I imagine at some stage, one of the companies are going to say, look, you know what, if you don't want to take action, go ahead and do it. And this will present like a dilemma for Fender, because if they do, they're going to have to defend the case again, but in a different jurisdiction, which will be the USA or another part of the world. If somebody else in another part of the world basically says, well, that's European law, it doesn't apply to us, do what you want. Give it your best shot. The other thing is, right, if Fender don't do anything about it, if they basically just let it go, then it's kind of like, well, why did you make the big hoo-ha in the first place? So it's kind of egg on their face as well. So maybe they're in a little bit of a sticky situation now. They might not know what to do. They might be like, we've got this technical win. Yay! Let's go and do something with it. Yay! We have to. We cannot not do anything with this. But that'll be really interesting. I will be following that closely if it does happen. Like I said, my speculation is that the master plan is to license everything, which is just going to be an absolute money mountain. Can you imagine that? If you think about it, if the company is a corporate company now and it's being run as this huge corporation business, which is just there to make money and to basically monetize every asset that it has, then from that point of view, it makes complete legal strategic sense. Because you don't want those companies going out of business, because when they go out of business, there is no license fee. Quite interesting, isn't it? Yeah, this is how my mind used to work. I'm absolutely ashamed of myself that I used to think this way. But you know what? When you're a lawyer, that's what happens in your mind. You know, it's just, yeah, it's a crazy place to be. I'm no longer that person. I'm very zen now. I don't look at everything as, you know, cup half empty. No, it's cup half full now. I just find this really, really interesting, and it's been quite an adventure, you know, just thinking about this. And thank you so much to everybody who commented, because while I was reading the comments on the video which I did last week, this all came to mind, because like I said, it didn't sit quite right until it did. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with the whole guitar community, what Fender does. It'll be interesting to see how this pans out. I would love to hear your thoughts about this, because I'm hearing from a lot of people that one of the reasons they don't buy Fender is because they just don't build guitars which are for them anymore. And, you know, I just would love to get a conversation going about what you think the end goal of this might be. Who knows? Maybe it might be to completely ruin the company, which is Fender Guitars. Maybe it is to stop every single guitar manufacturer making guitars for eternity. Who knows? Just speculation on this old grey lawyer's mind. But what a fun thing to do, eh? Well, you know, it keeps me out of trouble sometimes. Hopefully this time it will keep me out of trouble as well. By the way, Fender, if you're watching this is just speculation on my part, and I'm just talking the bullshit that happens in my mind. So don't come after me. Thank you very much. Lots of love, Jay. All right, guys and girls, I would love to know what your thoughts are. So leave a comment and let me know. Have a wonderful Sunday. I'm going to go and finish my coffee. I hope you're enjoying yours. And yeah, I'll see you soon with another one. Watch out for those videos, which I've been cranking out as well. There's some really cool stuff coming out. All right, have a great day. See you later.